Egypt's most elaborate tomb builder, Ramses the Great. From a hall of columns, a corridor leads to the side tombs. A statue of Ramses, depicted as the god of death, watches over everything.
Did you hear that? Ramses II, god of death that watches over everything. I'm telling you, Ramses II is Osiris. And once you understand that, they completely don't understand anything about the ancient Egyptians. They really don't.
The Egyptian yearns for eternity, but only the god Osiris, ruler of the underworld, judge and god of the dead, determines who is worthy. Ramses beseeches Osiris to grant him a long life because he has ambitious plans to extend Egypt's power and build his legacy.
So here they make it seem that they're two distinct people. Like one's a god, one's not. So Osiris already existed and then Ramses II is praying to him. No, that's not the case. Osiris is Ramses II when he died. He's ruling the underworld. They even said it in the documentary. He's the ruler of death. And he's watching over everything. Like, well, that's Osiris.
From a hall of columns, a corridor leads to the side tombs. A statue of Ramses, depicted as the god of death, watches over everything. In his funerary temple, he erects the greatest granite statues that his people have ever seen, becoming Egypt's greatest builder. And of course, that grandeur extends to his grave, the largest in the Valley of the Kings.
His grave is the largest in the Valley of the Kings. Ramses II was a very important pharaoh. We all know this. So why wouldn't they deify him? It's just like in Catholicism. If there was an important person back in the day, let's say like St. Patrick, St. George, they made them saints, right? They weren't saints before, but when they died a few years after, they made them saints. That's exactly what they did with Ramses II. They made him like a god, or they made him a saint. So he was very important in their mythology or in their history. So of course they're going to make him, larger than life afterwards. It's sort of like Martin Luther King. He was an important person in our history, so we build a statue of him. We still talk about him. It's like that. But yet these Egyptologists don't seem to understand that. So when they say that, oh, they were praying to all these gods, no, they weren't gods. They were actual people that did amazing things in their life. And they deified them, or they sainted them. They made them saints. That's what it was about.
Ramses ruled at the peak of his people's history. Still today, he's considered one of the most important kings of Egypt. And certainly, no one left a greater mark on the land, having built colossal temples on the southern borders of the empire and in Thebes. Most Egyptians have only known this one pharaoh, Ramses the Great. He brought them an era of peace and wealth. His architectural and political legacy has given him a kind of immortality.
Like I said, Ramses II was a very important king or pharaoh. And what people don't seem to understand is that he has multiple names. Yes, he has multiple names because it's like, well, his fame has been spread all around the world. And we know that there's multiple languages around the world. And things get lost in translation. And Ramses II won't be translated in the same language, right? So he'll have another name. And he has another name. But the thing is that they don't really tell you that, but he has multiple names. But I just wanted to focus on Osiris, but I'll do another video about the other versions of Ramses. But Osiris definitely is the main version. And there's another one. And there's another one that we all know. But I'll get to that another time, but I just wanted to let you know.
Ramses will depart his splendid tomb in the Valley of the Kings and celebrate eternal life. And when he reaches the afterlife, he will help maintain order in the land of the living. That idea consoles his people.
So did you hear that? Another clue. When he reaches the afterlife, Ramses II, and who is in the afterlife? Well, he's Osiris. Why wouldn't he be Osiris? And he's going to maintain order in the land of the living. What does Osiris do? If you have to pass Osiris, right? So if you're evil, then you're going to get gobbled up by, this horrible monster, and you won't come back because there's a circle of life, right? So eventually you'll come back, but because Osiris is saying that, only the good souls will go back, not the bad ones. So he's maintaining order in life. So that's what they mean.
On the dangerous path to the afterlife, no one escapes scrutiny. Osiris, the judge of the dead, decides the fate of the deceased. The heart, the home of the conscience, must be as light as Ma'at's feather, symbol of the goddess of justice. If it is heavy with sin, Osiris bars the way to the afterlife. Only those with a pure heart will get past the great devourer, a female demon with a crocodile's head and a body that's half lion, half hippo. It consumes the souls of sinners, condemning them to eternal death. For the pure of heart, the afterlife continues much like this life. Eating and parties, but work as well. In the world beyond, canals must still be dug and fields tilled.
I say again, once you understand that Ramses II is Osiris, then you realize that these Egyptologists, they're such fraudsters. They have no idea. And also, once I reveal who he also is in history, because as I said, he has multiple names, then you'll definitely realize that these people are, it's a huge scam. Okay, people are claiming something that's not even theirs, a history that's not even theirs, a culture that's not even theirs. It's just a huge scam, and eventually the Africans are going to unify, and then eventually they're going to challenge the narrative of the history of the entire continent, but especially ancient Egypt. I can't wait for that.
Understanding our past determines actively our ability to understand the present. So, how do we sift truth from belief? How do we write our own histories, personally or culturally, and thereby define ourselves? How do we penetrate years, centuries of historical distortion to find original truth?